American officials from USAID, the agency in charge of international development,
directly, just, here's the CIA department. Here's the CIA business department. We brought in our
dollars worth of aid to Ukraine since Russian troops crossed its border last year. But now a battle is brewing in Washington over the Biden.
I don't understand what you think we will get from Ukraine. What do you mean? I don't understand what you think we will get from Chile. I don't understand what you think we will get from Bolivia. I don't understand what you think we will get from Argentina. I don't understand what you think we will get from Nicaragua. I don't understand what you think we will get from Rwanda. I don't understand what you think we will get from Egypt. I don't understand what you think we will get from Iran. I don't understand what you think we will get from Puerto Rico. I don't understand what you think we will get from Iraq. I don't understand what you think we will get from Afghanistan. I don't understand what you think we will get from Syria. I don't understand what you think we will get from El Salvador. Why is it that we are giving them loans, for example? What are those loans being used on? And what kind of conditions come along with the loans that we've given to these people? I don't really understand it. What are we doing here? Yeah, why are we doing hyper privatization in Ukraine? How did that happen? All the state's assets up for grabs. Certainly, Western bankers have never, ever benefited from that, right? At that point, you're literally playing with like actual state property. You know what I mean? You're not just like opening up shop. You're not opening up shop in Ukraine and selling fucking pierogies. You're literally buying pieces of Ukraine. You get it, right? Like we do that all around the world. That's what we do with the IMF and the World Bank. And that's precisely what we do in every country.
Administration's request for over $20 billion more. Many Republicans in Congress are opposed. Hardliners in the House want to cut off all funding. Others are demanding more oversight. We went to Ukraine to get some answers.
If your family was in that country, you would want help from America, right? That's so funny that you're talking to a person who is literally a as close to you can get to the word political dissident as you possibly can from his home country, who 100% has been very vocal about not wanting American help when a coup happened, an American-backed coup happened in said country against the person who makes it basically impossible for me to go back home. So, no, I have been in a situation that is comparable, and my answer is, not what you think it is, I guess. The Ukraine that Ukrainian people know and love will never be the same again. It is entirely the fault of the Russian forces, okay? It is. It's the Russian invasion that caused this to happen, causes collapse to happen, and it is a lose-lose on every aspect. You lose lives, you lose homes, you lose assets. Fuck me, Jesus Christ. What is happening? Assets. Cities are flattened. You are 100%, but shelling your own citizens to the tune of $14K seems like a little to blame. No, wait, what? What are you talking about? Don't do the whole like LPR DPR was a never-ending back and forth with 14,000 civilians dying. That's why it was good to invade Ukraine and kill way more than that. Don't do that. Come on, dog. That's like the invasion didn't just happen yesterday. This is not a special military operation. You know what I mean? You can't fucking turn around and be like, yeah, Ukraine was shelling its own citizens in LPR and DPR, which is why we should shell them instead. While Ukraine continues to shell us, this time with depleted uranium that they get from American forces. Like, that's an insane fucking, that's an insane counter in that situation. It's like almost as silly as saying that you have your interest in denazifying Ukraine is genuine, and that's what your main goal was.
For the people who are bankrolling the war, American taxpayers. How exactly is your money being spent? And who's watching the weapons and the cash to to make sure they end up where they're intended.
The story will continue in a moment.
Our first stop, a forest 15 miles from the
Ukraine should defend itself, period. This is a funny take because, like, I don't know if you mean, I don't know if this is like pro-Ukraine, pro-American intervention in Ukraine or anti-American intervention in Ukraine. Like, you're saying, like, Ukraine should defend itself, okay? Not us, not expect us to do it. It could go either direction. It could go in either direction, which I think is pretty funny. Oh, wait, fuck, what did he say? I clicked away on accident.
front line in eastern Ukraine. These are US-made Bradley fighting vehicles, steel-clad behemoths hidden beneath the canopy. In a makeshift workshop
he said he's
that's
anti-America.
difficult for
Okay.
Russian drones to spot. Ukraine's 47th Mechanized Brigade was only formed.
Ukraine would be seized in days if they were relying solely on themselves. No, that's not true. That is not true either, okay? Ukraine has 44 million people living in it. It is a nation state, which has a complicated history with the USSR, but like its national identity is comprised of literally removing themselves from Moscow, from the rest of Russia. Its entire state of existence revolves around not being Russian in many respects. The further east you go, the more that mentality changes, and they feel more Russian, but still are Ukrainian. Which, by the way, of course, predates the Russian military invasion of Ukraine, because now no such attitude exists. Obviously, I would never say that. So, but ultimately, Ukraine would be Iraq without aid. With aid, it's still Iraq, because both sides are now bombing, but at least they're not doing guerrilla warfare. Okay? That's it. But you're crazy if you think that, like, oh, dude, it was a given, like, without American intervention, like, Russia would go in and wipe it out. No, it wouldn't, because, again, you cannot. You're a privileged white American. You're supporting Russia by explaining how bad U.S. is. I know that you just reduced all. I mean, you basically did a great job summarizing the positions of many liberals who fucking hate me whenever I talk about this issue. Anyway, let's continue.
Last year. But its soldiers have seen some of the deadliest fighting in this war. The Bradley's armour was designed to protect American infantry troops moving through combat zones. Now it's doing the same thing for Ukrainians.
Wow, look at that.
This machine survived a landmine and shrapnel from a Russian missile.
Yeah, it's done some damage, but it's still in one piece. What happened to the guys who were inside? Are they safe?
Yeah, I suppose they are safe and they are alive.
The US has sent 186 Bradleys here at a cost of around $2 million apiece.
So it's saving your guys' lives.
Yes.
Do any other vehicles save?
Why do NATO entities in the chat support Taiwanese independence but refuse to support Eastern Ukrainian independence? Because you said it, like, they don't believe that it's real or genuine, and that those people are just being manipulated by Russia or being pushed by Russia or were purged by Russia. And that's it. That's what they're...
Save lives in that way?
All right,
In
I'm
my
done
opinion,
responding to the chat,
and
though.
From my
I'm annoyed.
experience, this is the best vehicle I have
Damn, dude. They're glazing our beautiful American weapons, baby.
ever seen.
You're all hidden here in the forest.
Yeah.
Lieutenant Alexander Shershin is a former sales manager and a father of two who enlisted on February 24th, 2022. The same day Russia invaded his country.
What are those US weapons doing to the Russian military?
Bradley is just better than the BMP. No shit, he's glazing. I
What
don't know shit about
impact are they
tanks.
having?
We can destroy them faster. We can see them far away. They're afraid, really. Even,
They're afraid of the American weapons.
yeah, of course.
How do you know that?
Sometimes we can take prisoners and they tell what people talking about inside their companies, their brigade.
The US has spent just over $43 billion on military aid to Ukraine since Russia invaded. That's equivalent to about 5% of the American defense budget. European countries combined have contributed around $30 billion. American rocket launchers are now reaching deep into Russian-occupied Ukraine. And the Patriot air defense system is shielding millions of Ukrainian civilians from airstrikes. Where would the Ukrainians be right now without US weapons? How much of their country would they have lost?
Without that sort of aid, I think Ukraine would have been probably overrun, defeated, certainly would have lost a lot more.
Lieutenant General.
This is an ad, boys. Like, I'm sorry. If you don't understand, when you watch this, if you don't understand what is happening, I don't know what to tell you. Like, if you legitimately think any part of this is about, like, Ukrainian emancipation, you are a sucker, okay? At this point, they don't even hide it. They're like, oh, dude, our HIMARS, our Patriot defense system, like our Bradley tanks, they're so fucking fire. This is literally a fucking QVC, okay? God damn. If you don't think American weapons are the best, opium. Wait, I never said that they're bad. I don't have an opinion on American weapons being good or bad, for the record. I don't have that kind of autism, okay? I'm not like a War Thunder guy. I don't know. I'm not going to fucking duke it out. But, like, what I'm seeing is a fucking ad. I can see that. I see it with my own two eyes, so, you know, I'm calling it out.
General Ben Hodges served as the commander of the US Army in Europe. He retired in 2017 and is now an advisor to NATO. Hodges told us the Biden administration has failed to explain to Americans what they're getting for their dollar in Ukraine.
If you think about it, Russia has been for decades and still is an existential threat for Europe and the United States. I mean, just listen to what their leaders say. Look at the thousands of nuclear weapons. They clearly will keep going if they're not stopped.
Sounds like you're saying stop.
Yeah, totally. Poland next. Finland next. You know, look at how much the battle lines have changed. Okay? Like, this is maximum nuclear copium on both sides, okay? Russians being like, oh, we could be so much more dangerous if we wanted to. We're just like being we're just holding back, you know what I mean? Like, this is what we want, so we're just like stopping here. And then the Ukrainian side, like on the American side especially, is just like, oh my God, we are we're gonna do a counteroffensive and it's gonna be so fucking sick. It's gonna be so sweet. And like, it's literally inches of territory. Back and forth. And it just sucks because hundreds of thousands of people are dying.
Stopping Vladimir.
It's true, though. They literally have battle plans to expand through Moldova. Oh, my God, dude. Brother, you think Moldova is what they mean when they say that? And also, remember, it doesn't fucking matter. The joke I made is both Poland, which is Article 5 nation, and Finland, which wasn't an Article 5 nation at the time. Okay? And they are not taking any fucking ground of territory on the Russian end either. The fuck do you mean? At this point, I don't even think they could take over enough land to get to Moldova. Okay?
Putin in Ukraine directly benefits every American.
Absolutely. This war is about so much more than just Ukraine.
Is this a...
They actually would have continued if Ukraine had just rolled over or been conquered with less effort. If they win, they might not go for Poland until another 5 to 10 years. Wait, what? Bro, you are fucking nuts, dude. I'm telling you, the insurgency that would have been developed inside of Ukraine if they didn't even have a fucking standing army would have made it virtually impossible to do a permanent occupation. America tried it in Afghanistan and failed. Russia tried it in Afghanistan and the USSR evaporated somewhat as a consequence of that. You're fucking delusional if you think that Russia would be able to permanently occupy a neighboring state with 44 million people who at that point are creating a robust insurgency. Like, what do you think happens in war? What the fuck? While going to war with Poland, like, I'm losing my mind at the fantasy, dude. Like, the geopolitical aspirations that these chatters have are so fucking far removed from reality. Like, when you say this, I know you're trying to be like a NATO guy. But what you're saying is basically the most like delusional pushing Z-ass shit that I don't even hear from the likes of like dudes who work for Russia Today. Okay? Like motherfuckers who go to Russia and sit on top of tanks and pose are not as delusional as to be like, dude, Russia could totally permanently occupy Ukraine and then move on to Poland. Okay? Yes, in the words of Zoomers, that is delulu, okay? They did it to Chechnya, Georgia, Donbass, and Crimea. Oh, I'm going to lose it. Oh, my God. Oh, my God. They did it to like one fucking slice of Georgia. Comparing that to, again, none of this is a equivalent comparison to the entire nation state of Ukraine, which has 44 million people, and plenty of them, almost all of them now, despise Russia. No more sympathy for Russia in the eastern territories. Making a comparison to Crimea or Donbass. Donbass is an even better comparison at this point because, like, what the fuck are you talking about? They can't even maintain Donbass. What are you talking about? Barely. Like, comparing Crimea to the rest of Ukraine is so insane. Like, just look at the number of people, the casualties, and then you understand, like, that is a psychotic comparison to make. And I'm not even saying that because, Hasan loves saying, like, Crimea is Ukraine or whatever. I'm, like, literally saying it's impossible to occupy Ukraine in the same way that it was very possible to occupy Crimea. Right? That's insane. And that is more so to say that Ukrainians are resilient and would have 100% kept up a nonstop insurgency movement in Ukraine. And that would have made it impossible for Russian forces to advance anywhere else to begin with. Oh, okay. You're missing the mark again? No, I'm missing the top of the hour ad break. That's all I'm missing. Which I'm not missing, actually. I'm serving. Because at the top of the hour, there's a 3-minute ad break. If you no longer want to see those ads, all you need to do is subscribe. If Russian militarism and imperialism were not a threat to NATO's eastern flank, why did the Finns and Swedes jump at the chance to join NATO after decades of neutrality? Wait, you're making the argument that I'm making, right? Which is that it created perfect justification for the Swedes and the Finns to join NATO because, like, they did, Russia literally invaded Ukraine, but they did it in such a haphazardly, silly, bad way that it showed to the rest of the world that they were not a real threat, which is precisely the reason why they dropped the longstanding neutrality and went and joined NATO. It's Sweden and Finland, like, actually joining NATO is yet another wonderful gift that Vladimir Putin gave to America. It was like a gift. All right, let's keep watching this lady.
High point for American foreign policy?
It will be after Russia has been defeated.
American taxpayers are financing more than just weapons. We discovered the US government's buying seeds and fertilizer for Ukrainian farmers and covering the salaries of Ukraine's first responders, all 57,000 of them. That includes the team that trains this rescue dog named Joy to comb through the wreckage of Russian strikes looking for survivors. And the US also funds the divers who we saw clearing unexploded ammunition from the country's rivers to make them safe again for swimming and fishing. Russia's invasion shrank Ukraine's economy by about a third. We were surprised to find that to keep it afloat, the US government is subsidizing small businesses. Like Tatiana Abramova's knitwear company.
Is the Ukrainian town? That's Kiev, I recognize.
Yeah. Especially in the condition of war, we have to work. We have to pay taxes.
Whenever someone says, how are we going to pay for it? You should just ship them to Ukraine. Black bag them, okay? Black bag them, put them on the first fucking private jet that the CIA owns and operates, and drop their ass in the heart of LPR, okay? And be like, that! How are we paying for that? Not to say, for the record, that like this is the least bad thing America does in Ukraine, okay? Actually, unironically. If anything, if this wasn't conditional and the sharks in the form of Western banks were not already like fucking picking apart the Ukrainian state for whatever kind of assets they have for pennies on the fucking dollar, right now as it stands, and like there was no war or whatever, and this is all that the American military did in the form of like soft power, this is what they did, then I wouldn't even have a fucking issue with it. But it's so funny when people are like, how are we going to pay for this, dog? What are we doing? And then, like, you'll find out that you're literally fucking funding babushkas. Your tax dollars are funding babushkas, like, knitwear company in Kiev, okay? It's just, like I said, I don't have an issue with it. It's the least bad thing that America is doing in Ukraine. But never, ever allow some fucking piece of shit, dumb, neoliberal politician to be like, how are we going to pay for it, dog? We should bid on that state-run titanium factory. Come on, I saw it on the privatization website. Come on, be a capitalist with me. No, I'm not buying a Ukrainian factory.
We have to pay wage, salary to our employees. We have to work. Don't stop.
Why does that help Ukraine win the war?
Because economy is the foundation of everything.
American officials from USAID, the agency in charge of international development,
directly just, here is the CIA department. Here's the CIA business department. We brought in our greatest business minds. Pete Buttigieg is about to fucking get drop shipped into Ukraine.
helped Abramova find new customers overseas. In the midst of war, her company is supporting over 70 families.
We realize that it's the aid from governments, but it's the aid from the heart of every ordinary American person.
How do you feel about that?
Grateful. Great.
In total,
Like, I know they made this as like, look at all of our efforts in Ukraine, look at how good it is. But like, I feel like you show this to any normal American living in like the heartland or whatever, they're gonna be like, what the fuck are you saying right now? I feel like this would literally turn like regular Americans into like anti-government terrorists. Join like immediately. They'd be like, where's the militia? What is the closest militia I can join? I'm doing a January 6th every day going forward. Like imagine going to the Appalachian area, okay, and talking to some dude who hasn't seen a dentist, who the closest fucking human healthcare professional is at least like a helicopter ride away from, because there's nothing in your fucking backyard, okay? There's no hospitals because it's not profitable, okay? And being like, hey, we can't help you because we got no money, sorry. And the worst part is it's not even a one-to-one. It's not like, oh, we can only fund Ukrainian small businesses and Ukrainian infrastructure. Like, it's not one-to-one. We could do this and the other thing, but, we just don't want to because fuck you. Because fuck you.
America's pumped nearly $25 billion of non-military aid into Ukraine's economy since the invasion began. And you can see it working at the bustling farmers market on John McCain Street in central Kyiv.
People of Ukraine, this is your moment.
The late senator is revealed.
Wait, that's crazy. What was he doing there? Damn, that's wild. What the fuck was John McCain doing in Ukraine? I mean, he died before Russia invaded. Huh. What's next? You gonna tell me fucking Amy Klobuchar was there too? Shut up. I love when motherfuckers go, Russia invaded in 2014. Like, you know exactly what I mean, dog. Shut the fuck up, okay? God damn it. In 2014, you were a fetus who did not know where Ukraine was on a fucking map to begin with, okay? Shut up. Shut up. The comparison of both of these situations is ridiculous.
In Ukraine because he pushed the US government to start sending arms to the country after Russia first invaded back in 2014. While in Kyiv, we learned that 3 of McCain's former colleagues were also in town. Democratic Senators Elizabeth Warren and Richard Blumenthal and Republican Senator Lindsey.
Wait, does he flash flags in the audience even then? Right sector flags? Of course.
Graham. They don't normally agree on much. Together, though, they're some of the staunchest supporters of US funding for Ukraine's resistance.
They're on track to break the Russian army. And the only way they could
This is so fucking devastating and uses the most insidious mechanisms to garner support for an insane pursuit of bloodshed for the sake of the military-industrial complex. The millions of Europeans and Africans suffering the consequence of the prolonging of this war is making God look kind of nice, and I'm a Muslim. I mean, it hasn't happened yet. You haven't seen the worst aspects. The worst aspects have only stayed inside of Ukrainian borders for the most part, right? There's some negative consequences for Europe at the moment with regards to energy and whatnot. But overall, the Ukrainians are shouldering the burden of Russia invading Ukraine for now. Okay? It hasn't moved into, it hasn't seeped into issues for Eastern European countries, which there will be like a robust network, in my opinion. Once this becomes like a holding position that is permanent, nationalist groups are 100% going to create a robust network of white nationalists in every fucking country with a steady flow of weapons that they're getting from Americans, who then will be able to start rebuilding as conditions worsen in Europe, as it's always going to, because that's the only direction you can head in under capitalism. Never like any sort of material, never in a way that like genuinely improves the material conditions of the working class in Europe. As people become more and more reactionary, you're going to see nationalists, ultra-nationalists, hyper-nationalists, white nationalists, brigades, and a robust network of white nationalist brigades basically start taking control over certain territories and countries. They will do a very good job of like actually controlling governments from within, as they have done in Italy. France is next in the next election cycle. And once Germany falls with AfD, you now will have a nationalist, a hyper-nationalist EU, okay, with a robust network of paramilitary groups that can operate both within the ranks of the militaries, but also outside of the ranks of the militaries, and like football hooligans and whatnot, and a never-ending anti-socialist and actually fascist organization of European governments. That will be the blowback in Europe. It's already happening. It's been happening. It's partially happening as a consequence of America's destabilization of the Middle East. And you're gonna have football hooligan psychotic wingnats that are in Germany and shit running around with like American weapons. Football hooligans in Germany are mostly left-wing. That's not what I'm talking about. Football hooligans is one formation. It changes from country to country. Just got back, and thanks for reminding me we have this to look forward to. Just remember this, 10 years down the line when you're talking about how like we did the right thing, and we did the right thing, and we were fighting until every last Ukrainian died. You know what I mean? Ukraine blame game going to be real ugly. Fortunately, there's no way it will be framed as a case of too little from NATO, too late. Oh, Wall Street Journal. U.S. Abrams tank reach Ukraine. Is it a case of too little, too late? I've said this version of... What? We just get treads. Going to be the 21st century is who lost China. So instead, having a permanent insurgency would have been preferable instead. No, having no reason for insurgency would be preferable. Cutting assurances and enforcing previously previously agreed upon contracts on both sides, applying pressure would have been the right thing to do in Ukraine, so that war was not a thing that ever happened. Okay, let's keep going.
Is if we pull the plug on them.
The wreckage of Russia's war machine was on display for Ukraine's Independence Day celebrations, even as almost a fifth of the country remains under occupation.
People ask me...
I want to point to something here, but like, you know, all criticisms of the USSR valid, except those motherfuckers built such good infrastructure that Russian tanks could go in and not fuck up the roads, okay? Just think about that. No such equivalence exists in the United States of America. Never forget that. Not to be too much of a silly infrastructure Andy, but that is somewhat significant, okay? Think about that. That not only that, but also the very low to the very low in the ground, like deep in the ground, incredibly built metro stations that were also, what would you say they was put there? No, I'm not talking about these tanks this time around. I'm talking about in general, like in Kyiv and shit. They rolled big ass armored trucks and shit, and even tanks and trucks that drop artillery and whatnot.
Is it worth it? Here's what we've gotten for our investment. We haven't lost one soldier. We've reduced the combat power of the Russian army by 50%. And now
they keep saying it, dude. Look at this. They keep saying it. Oh my God, Elizabeth Warren, what the fuck?
not one of us has died in that endeavor. This is a great deal for America.
Oh my God, dude. They're in the fucking middle of Ukraine.
To break the Russian army. And the only way they could possibly lose is if we pull the plug on them.
The wreckage of Russia's war machine was on display for Ukraine's Independence Day celebrations, even as almost a fifth of the country remains under occupation.
People ask me, is it worth it? Here's what we've gotten for our investment. We haven't lost one soldier. We've reduced the combat power of the Russian army by 50%. And not one of us has died in that endeavor. This is a great deal for America.
You've previously said that it's the best money we've ever spent. That's still true?
Since we helped Churchill stand up to the Nazis.
We have to have confidence that the dollars we're spending are actually being spent in defense of the nation. All of that is important. But that's why we're here.
The senators and other US officials told us there have been no substantiated cases of American weapons being diverted.
The United States Department of Defense ought to be telling the story about oversight. We're monitoring, we're following every piece of equipment. There has been no diversion, no evidence of misappropriation. This is an American success story on aiding a partner fighting for freedom.
But Ukraine is a young democracy with a history of corruption. According to the monitoring group Transparency International, it's ranked the second most corrupt country in Europe. Only Russia scores lower.
You have to get rid of this cancer, which is corruption, because otherwise we're not going to survive.
Alexandra Ustinova was an anti-corruption activist and is now an outspoken member of Ukraine's parliament. She chairs a government commission that tracks all military aid coming to Ukraine.
These javelins provided by the United States.
She filmed this video for us inside what she called a top-secret warehouse storing American Javelin anti-tank missiles.
We have online databases with the serial numbers of every American piece of weapon that your embassy has access to. They can come, type in, let's say, a Javelin or a HIMARS and see in which brigade it is, and then go check it if they don't believe.
So the US officials are going to the front line.
We are letting them. Sometimes
they act as if the Russian military complex isn't a thing. The building new military vehicles and ammunition isn't its own jobs program for Russians. I mean, there's that element as well. Yeah, no, they're saying that, like, no, these weapons are all accounted for, which I don't believe that is the case, for the record.
They may be sending people. Sometimes they're going to the logistics centers to see.
Like, there has been so much coverage on how that is not the case. So I don't know why she's saying that currently, but as far as I understand it, that is not the truth. But let me say something, or at least this is what I fucking know about how America operates. America does not give a fuck about where those guns go, okay? They do not give a fuck. You know what they care about? By the way, here's the Libertarian Cato Institute, but also there's plenty of coverage on the matter from, you know, actual outlets, not just the Libertarian Cato Institute. But you know what the Americans care about? They care about the dollar. Okay, they care about the weapons being shipped and being paid for, and then that's good. After that, it doesn't matter where it goes. Who gives a shit? If you use it on Russian, trucks and shit, great, awesome. If you don't, whatever. And, you know, we already sold them. We're a weapons developer. Like, the gun store, at the end of the day, doesn't care where you use those bullets. Okay. They just want to sell you the bullets. Why the fuck would the gun store go, oh, I can't believe my weapons ended up in the hands of, like, Hank instead of Tom? Like, no, they don't give a shit. They just want to sell the weapons. That's it. And it's awesome because those weapons aren't even, like, being used in your backyard.
Whether it is there or not, whether it's available.
That may be true now, but a report from the Pentagon's Inspector General last year found the US government was...
As long as it's Hank or Tom and not Abdul, you're wrong. We literally gave Abdul weapons for the longest fucking time and did not give a shit at all in that situation too. No. As long as it's Hank or Tom and not Abdul is not even true. It doesn't matter who you give weapons to as long as those weapons are sold.
Unable to monitor weapons transfers in the early months of the war, in part because the American embassy's staff was evacuated. Criminal groups in Ukraine stole some weapons and equipment from the country's military, though they were later recovered by Ukrainian intelligence services. Ustinova claims that today systems are in place to make sure that never happens again. So what are the stakes for Ukraine in making sure that US-supplied weapons don't go missing?
I can tell you that this is the #1 priority for us because we're not stupid to shoot ourselves in the leg. We understand we would never made it without the United States, and we're not going to make it without the United States.
An American hotline for Ukrainians to report misuse of assistance from US aid saw a 10-fold increase when these posters went up across the country earlier this year.
What?
American officials are now investigating 4 criminal cases involving non-military aid. And 170 Ukrainian government officials, including high-ranking military officers, have been charged in corruption cases so far this year for crimes like embezzlement and accepting bribes. Ustinova told us she considers that good news.
If we didn't have anyone arrested, then that would be a question when people see all these corruption scandals, but nobody goes to jail.
So this life or death battle that Ukraine is fighting has made people here less tolerant of corruption?
Yes. 100% of the Ukrainian budget now is being spent on the army. It's someone's bulletproof vest, it's someone's helmet, or someone's armed vehicle that was not there in time to save the lives. I think this tolerance is close to zero because they understand that now corruption kills.
Ukraine is losing US weapons on the battlefield. But Lieutenant Shershin told us that's the only way they're losing them. Has anything gone missing?
in my situation, in my company, in our battalion, I don't know the case like this.
Alleluia, alleluia, alleluia. As the war grinds towards its third year, Ukrainians are dying in trenches, in the streets of their cities, and in their own homes.
Why would he be like, yeah, we've lost a shit ton of weapons? Like why would he ever say that? I mean, not that like we have a decent tracking system. Anyway, it doesn't matter. It's gone. You fucking put the weapons out there. It's over. Who gives a shit where it goes? Is the mentality. The country's fighting for its survival, bankrolled in large part by US taxpayers. The outcome may be decided by America's willingness to keep paying.
Some Americans say we're very sympathetic to you Ukrainians, but we're going through tough times at home and we just can't afford to keep on supporting you.
Ukrainians pay their lives. And I believe and I hope that their lives cost much more than money, much more than taxpayers' money.
Inside the Story with CBS.
That's it. That's the bankrolling of the war in Ukraine. The U.S. sent more than $70 billion worth of aid to Ukraine since the Russian troops crossed its border last year. Biden admin is requesting $20 billion more, but not all of that money is being spent on weapons. Some of it is being spent on developing the Ukrainian economy.